And we are live in the whole being zone. I am here today with Erin-Ashley Kerti, and she is a confidence coach for sensitive people. After severe and prolonged illness opened her up to her intuitive abilities when she was 19, she went through years of confusion while she tried to figure out what was happening to her and why she experienced the world differently than those around her. In 2011, she finally got serious about helping people. Since then, she has helped people through the world master their intuitions and tap into their strength and confidence for their souls. So, welcome, Erin. It is so good to be with you.
Thank you, Wendy. It's wonderful to be here. It's a pleasure.
And I invited Erin to come onto the Whole Being Zone because Erin works with intuition, and one of the driving principles that I have in my business, Whole Being Inc., and certainly with the podcast as well, is how do we take all of that information that we have coming at us for having a successful business, disseminate it, apply it, and not lose that inner wisdom, to take all of that information and then to go into your heart and say, well, what is right for me, what's right for my business, what's right for the people that I'm doing this for, my why people. So Erin, let's talk a little bit about intuition. Tell me a little bit more about how you started following your own.
So I've been intuitive my whole life, which everyone's intuitive. That's the first thing I have to say. If you have a pulse, you are intuitive. So it's not like I'm somehow gifted by the gods and I'm intuitive and other people aren't. It's simply I'm very, very aware of my intuition, and the awareness of my intuition is where my gift really is. So that awareness started when I was really young. The first huge intuitive hit that I remember having was, you're going to learn some family history. I have 4 adopted sisters. Before they were adopted, they were in the foster care system. And I knew immediately that they were family. They were my sisters. And so for me, what it looked like is it comes through a feeling of knowing and a feeling of certainty. Mm-hmm. And so for me, my intuitive journey, I didn't realize at that point that other people didn't have that same experience. I was a child, but I kept having experiences like that growing up, and I kept following it. And I assumed I was just smarter than everyone else because I was a kid. The truth is I'm no smarter than anyone else. I just know how to listen to the intuition. My intuition is just set to a very loud volume. And so as I grew up and became an adult, I had an experience where I finally had to realize that this was something that was bigger than myself. It wasn't coming from me, and that happened when I was 19. When I was 19, I had a vision, and I saw very clearly that I would be in the hospital. I even saw the exact hospital gown that I was wearing, and I saw the pattern, I saw everything, only I felt a sense of peace whenever I saw myself in this hospital gown. And I don't know about you, but I do not associate hospitals with a feeling of peace, just not happening. So that dream scared me quite a bit whenever I woke up, but I also had this really deep sense of peace overall, and I knew everything was going to work out. 2 months later, ended up in that exact hospital, in that exact gown, diagnosed with a very severe illness. And that illness, if the doctors hadn't found it and treated it, they told me after I was stable, thankfully, that they only would have found out in the autopsy. And so that's when I started realizing that the intuition is a lot more helpful and definitely bigger than the self. That was the point when I made that realization.
Wow. And so how do you work with people now to tune into that guidance and to turn up that voice within themselves? Because I think so many of us, and certainly with the people that I work with, I see it over and over again. they turned it off or tuned it out very young because of some kind of trauma that happened in order for them to feel safe, be accepted, or feel loved. And now there's a part of them that's really trying to, it's almost like an internal war. They keep getting this calling, they keep getting this guidance to move forward, and yet they keep pulling back. So it's like this constant war. And for some people who maybe aren't as familiar or aware of what's going on, they will even try to numb that out. So how do you help people transition into listening and being aware and following it?
So that's a fantastic question, because in my practice I see this all the time as well. Sometimes it's with business, sometimes it's with personal life. And the way that I do it is twofold. First, people have to understand how their intuition is speaking to them. I talked about mine. It comes through a sense of knowing. There are 4 main languages that the intuition speaks. And so the first thing that I do is I work with them on figuring out how the intuition is speaking with them, because that's the biggest doubt that I come into contact with is, well, how do I know it's really my intuition? I'm not making it up, and blah, 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 blah. Which, valid question, fantastic question, perfect question to ask. So there are 4 ways that the intuition can speak to us. There is a visual. If someone is a visual learner, they will tend to be a visual intuitive. This means if they ask for it, they'll get a visual clue about what they should or shouldn't do. And the second is auditory. If someone is an auditory learner, they will usually get some type of information that they hear in the inner ear, inside their mind, about their guidance, etc. Now this can be complex because, of course, we have our normal thoughts too. But intuitive thoughts are almost always paired. There's not usually a should, there's not usually a have to, there's not usually a must. And so if all of those are in, you're like, oh, ego, oh, just logic, or whatever it is, you can just scratch it right off. And then the third way is through feelings inside the body, the sensations inside the body. Now this is different than emotions. I'm talking about like sensations. You'll think of something and then your hand will tingle, right? And that's a little bit harder to pin down. You have to become aware of your entire body. Or you'll think of an idea for your business and all of a sudden your stomach will clench in knots. Or you'll think of an idea for your business and all of a sudden your heart will start to race, but you'll start to feel excited too. Mm-hmm. And so that is typical of someone who's a kinesthetic learner who tends to need to be in action to learn. And then the fourth is through knowing. And this tends to come for people who are know-it-alls. By the way, I'm in this camp. So, this is whenever you just know, and you know like you know like you know, and if you try to explain how you know, you can't explain it. It comes with a sense of certainty. Most people experience the certainty in the heart or right around the stomach area, in between that area. That's where the certainty tends to show up if there's a sensation linked with it. And those are the 4 ways. So the first thing you want to do is to think about which way the intuition speaks to you. What language is easiest for you to speak with the intuition? Most people have all 4 to some degree. So again, just like in normal everyday life, most people are capable of learning through all the ways, through doing, through reading, through hearing. We can also receive information those same ways. It's not you have one and the rest are just not going to happen. It's all of them. And then the second portion that I work with people is the feeling comfortable once they actually have an intuitive hit. It's like, oh, well, now I know the next stage of my business is getting in front of people and speaking in public, right? Okay, well, I really don't want to do that, and I'm scared to follow that, and what if I'm wrong? Because that could be really embarrassing if I'm wrong, right? Because that's the fear aspect. You got the intuitive hit, you're mostly sure that you're on track, you have the normal human doubts. And now you actually have to take action, and that's when the fear comes up. That's whenever the trust issue with the intuition, the trust with the universe as a whole, needs to be addressed. And this is crucial, because if you just develop the intuition and you don't develop trust, then you've got half the recipe, and you're going to find your business and your life is going to be half-baked. And so the trust part comes by honoring where you are. This means that even when you have that wonderful business idea and you intuitively know that you could take action on it, giving yourself permission to not take action until you gain more trust with the universe, with your intuition, and with yourself and your capabilities. You can build it up. You don't have to take action right away. That's the other thing. Once you know things from your intuition, the time that you actually get the intuitive hit and the time that you can implement the intuitive hit, there's usually a time delay. And that's okay. We don't have to turn that into something to beat ourselves up about.
Absolutely. Manifesting. Talk to us about manifesting, because that, ever since the movie The Secret came out, that has been such a huge buzz. And what's fascinating to me is the way that the universe, I don't know, I guess the best way to say it is helps us to remember that wisdom is often through layers. So I guess The Secret came out almost 10 years ago now. And now we know that there's all these extra steps to manifesting. And it's kind of buzzword, but there's still so many people who are like, you know what, I don't get it. How can I just think it and it happens? So talk to us about that process.
Okay, so this process is absolutely fascinating to me because I've been studying the law of attraction. I fell into it on accident-ish. I saw The Secret when it came out. I actually waited until the second it was released, and we watched it on the computer together. And we talked about it for hours afterward. And then I stumbled onto Abraham Hicks' work about a year or two later, Ask and It's Given. And I had no idea what I was doing. I was just playing with it. I was just following some suggestions to raise my vibration and feel happier. And all of a sudden, my life took off. And here's the thing that most people don't realize is we have like an internal vision of how successful we should be. And if we cross that threshold, then we will subconsciously sabotage ourselves. And I had no idea about this. I didn't know that there was a limit. So I had all the success, and then all of a sudden I started experiencing panic attacks. I started experiencing anxiety at facing all these people who saw me as successful because I didn't see myself as successful. So energetically, I felt like a fraud. It wasn't true. I was perfectly capable, but my self-image was hugely flawed, and I hadn't corrected it. So whenever my outward manifestation started creating dissonance with who I believed I was, there was nothing else the universe could do but bring that to me in some way. And that was through anxiety, that was through unpleasant scenarios, and then it all came tumbling down. It took me a year or two to get my footing again. And so whenever it comes to manifesting, all that any one person needs to know is that the self-image is the most important aspect of any part of it. If you were to ask me the number one thing to do to release yourself and to be able to manifest the life that brings you happiness, peace, and joy, and all of the emotions that we're really after through all of the external things that we're going for, it would be giving yourself permission to experience those in little moments throughout the day. And so the trick to manifesting the big stuff, 10,000 email subscribers, the trick to manifesting $10,000 sales months or weeks or whatever it is in your business, the trick is learning to tap into the emotions that those elicit in small moments throughout your day, and learning to bring your comfort level with those emotions up day by day by day, and follow the inspiration that leads you on the path to those emotions, because those emotions, as they expand, create the external experiences that you're really looking for. And sometimes it looks exactly like you've envisioned it, right? Oh my goodness, I made $10,000 this week. Okay, let's throw a party. Other times it looks like a really nice vacation or something unexpected. All of a sudden you'll find a new project that you never would have expected, or a new business partner that you never would have expected to want to work with, but everything feels right and exciting about it, and it works out in a way that's for everyone's highest good. And so for me, with manifesting, I use the vision of what I want the end result to be as the carrot on the stick, as the North Star that guides, but how it actually looks, I always release that because I don't know how it looks. All I know is that using that vision as a guiding post is going to get me to where I actually want to be. And I let the universe be the guide for that destination, and I don't try to control exactly what that looks like.
So give us a tangible example of this.
Okay, excellent.
I know you're speaking in very broad strokes.
Yes.
And the topic is, this kind of stuff is very funny to me because on one hand, we all know it, and on the other hand, that has kind of been taught out of us in many ways. And so I think people oftentimes need to see a really tangible example in order to go, oh, that's how it looks.
Yes. Okay. I will use a personal example from last month. In last month, I have a board of the emotions that I most enjoy experiencing. And I have a few of them. I have exhilaration, connection, and powerful. I'm just going to use those three because those fit with this particular story the best. I love feeling exhilarated. It makes me feel really alive. I love feeling connected, and I love being connected to my own inner power, the connection to the soul and the universe. And how that looked in my business is I just tuned in and I was like, okay, I really want to experience this in a big way. So what can I do? And I had the inspired idea, well, I'm going to offer a promotion in my business. And so I checked in, I had the idea, and I checked in, how does it feel? Well, I feel exhilarated. That's fun. I feel connected because this is one of my favorite things to teach. And I feel really powerful whenever I think about it because I think I can reach a lot of people. And that's just really feeling good to me. It's like, okay, I'll try it. And if it fails, then it'll be a learning experience and we'll do an analysis and figure out why it failed. But I'm just going to try it. And I did. And what happened is it took off. It took off very well. And when I was inspired, I would check back on those feelings to take action. So I would create a to-do list every day. And then I'd check, does this action feel in alignment with the emotions that I most want to experience? Okay, the ones that feel the most in alignment, I do first. The ones that are least in alignment, I do last. Some things are just important to do every day. Like cleaning the cat box has to be done every day. I don't feel exhilarated, connected, or powerful when I do it, right? But I don't cut it out of my to-do list either, right? Right. So it's the same thing. Sometimes there are things that just need to get done. However, I prioritize by putting my time, attention, and energy to the things that make me feel exhilarated, connected, and powerful first. And then I address all the other things that need to get done. And in that month, I broke all of my sales records. And I didn't just break them, I doubled them through that one single promotion. And I got a lot of great marketing information. I got a lot of great new followers, as you know, on Facebook, email subscribers, everything. It was great. And that's exactly the type of scenario you want to do. You can use this on daily tasks. You don't have to make this abstract. You can look at the 6 things you want to do during the day and choose the one that is closest in vibration or the emotional energy that you feel most connected to in that way. And then do that one first. That sends a clear message to the universe that you are serious about experiencing what you say you want to experience. And it also sends a very strong message to your subconscious mind that you are serious about creating the future you want to create. You have to have the subconscious mind on board. And taking action on what feels best by your time, energy, and attention is the best way to get the subconscious mind on board.
So may I ask you a couple of questions regarding that promotion?
Absolutely.
So did you do anything different in terms of how you promoted it compared to previous promotions?
Yes. This one, I'd never done a pay what you can type of promotion. And I only promoted it to people who um, I knew and respected, and also knew and respected me. And so it was a completely different type of promotion than I'd ever done before. And so that's the first thing that I did. And then I also wrote very personal stories about my own journey with my intuition. And I would really look for what my heart most wanted to say about my experience. And that's what I'd tap into. And then as soon as I tapped into it, I would just sit down and I would write. And I timed myself. I have this little kitchen timer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cute.
Yes, I call him Benny because he makes me Benjamins. So, but what I do is to get, the negative stuff to not talk while I'm trying to work. I just set him and I can hear him clicking. And so I know that while he's clicking and he's not buzzing, I'm simply focused on that one task. It doesn't have to be good. It can have so many spelling errors that my third grade teacher would be ashamed. It doesn't matter. I'm just there to write the story that is on my heart. I can edit it later. The interesting thing is it almost never needed much editing because it was coming directly from the heart. But even if it did, it would have been okay. And so that's the approach that I took, is I would just time it a little bit, because if you sit and try to do all of these new things at once without timing or structure or giving yourself a good sufficient break in between them or breaking them down, it just gets overwhelming. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how intuitive you are or aren't.
Right. And I love that in terms of promoting it, you really stayed within a circle that you have invested energy in creating relationships. I think one of the things that I know I struggle with it, and pretty much everybody I know struggles with it, once you're able to hone in and figure out who your ideal client or customer is, then finding out where they hang out. And I don't know that it is as difficult as we all make it. I think it's more of a, like Gay Hendricks calls it, an upper limit, or Stephen Pressfield talks about it as the resistance. So how can people use their intuition to be guided where they would best invest their time and energy in creating relationships with people who are potentially in that ideal client or customer realm?
Absolutely. I love this question. So this goes back to manifesting for me, because when I think of the people that I most love to work with, I think about the emotions that they evoke, right? And then I think, where in the world or on the internet do I feel those same emotions? And so if, for instance, one of my clients just makes me giggle like crazy, and she makes me feel free, which liberation is one of my feelings that I just adore, and she makes me feel happy, which is another one of them. And so I think, okay, where does she hang out? And if you already have a few clients, then you can start looking at, okay, the ones that I enjoy the most, what emotions do I feel, and where in the world or on the internet do I experience the same emotions? And then you just follow the thread. It's like breadcrumbs. You just follow the breadcrumbs, just follow the trail, see where it leads. And this isn't an excuse to not, do sound business practices like reviewing the numbers to see if it's actually effective, reviewing your time expenditure to see if you're actually being productive while you're in those spaces, right? Are you actually connecting and making relationships there, or are you just having a good time? And there's nothing wrong with having a good time. You just don't want to get it confused inside your own mind about what you're doing. You don't want to label something as helping your business if what it's actually doing is feeding your need for friendship and connection. And vice versa, you don't want to pretend like you're making friends if you're actually building your business. Not saying you can't have business and friends in the same industry, of course you can, but you just don't want to lie to yourself about what's actually going on. And that's exactly what I did and I do, is I just look at where I experience those emotions, and then I try it, and I look at the numbers, and I see what was most effective afterward. And I've found great success with that. Very rarely do I find myself in a situation where I follow the emotions and take action on the marketing, connecting with people, and not get results. It happens because this is the real world. Sometimes we try something, our heart's in it, our soul's in it, but there's another lesson other than whatever we believed our end goal was.
And how do we discover that other lesson when you're doing everything that is supposedly right and things still aren't in that flow? How do you get to that shift?
All right. Now, there are two different things that can be going on. First of all, you could actually not be in your flow. You mentioned this. And if someone's not in their flow, then what they'll feel is, even when they're doing the work feels hard almost every step of the way. It feels like an uphill battle. It feels like there's never any rest. It feels like it's exhausting. All of the core feelings that you may desire to have, not there, right? And if you're checking in, if you look at the actions of the last week, this is a really great exercise to do, actually. List out the main things that you got done in the last week in your business, and then write out the emotions associated with each of those actions. And that will let you know whether you are doing something that is playing to your strengths, your talents, and your soul's purpose, or whether you are trying to force yourself as a square peg to go into a round hole. Now, if the emotions are there and you're going forward and it's not turning out the way that you want, then there's a really cool lesson in it for you. There always, 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 always. And I don't know exactly what the lesson is going to be, but the best way to find out is to go in and see what you're feeling and what beliefs come up. What negative beliefs about yourself, your world, your clients, this happens. You think negative stuff about your clients, not because you think there's anything wrong with them, but it comes up because you're frustrated, right? This is normal. And then you look at it. And look at it like a scientist. You don't have to look at it and feel like you're somehow a terrible person for having negative thoughts. You're a human being. Human beings have negative thoughts. We have negative beliefs. That's part of the package. And so then you just look at them and it's like, okay, well, how can I reframe that? Or what's the deeper lesson? So if you find a thread that you believe that everyone is out to get you and you feel unsafe because you feel that you do all this work and people take advantage, then you have to start asking yourself, how am I mirroring that in my own life? How am I mirroring that in my own life? How do I take advantage of situations so that I feel like I have enough? There's a grasping energy with that, right? So where am I grasping, thinking that I have to grab more than what is readily offered because there won't be enough in the future? Because that's showing up in your clients because it's showing up inside of you. And if you find out where you're doing that, then you simply start thinking about the new actions you can take that are more in alignment with what you actually believe in your heart of hearts and your soul of souls, how you actually want your life to look. And then you release that need to grasp on. You don't get the 2-for-1 sale when you're not even interested in the one, right?
Right.
It's the same type of thing, but it's showing up multiple places. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's I think one of the biggest paradigm shifts that's happening right now, and it's fascinating because as it happens more and more, I'm seeing the resistance that comes with that. The paradigm shift is moving from that scarcity to an abundance mentality. And all of the people who have benefited from a scarcity economy are really having to fight. I noticed, and this is like a really crazy example, but we were watching the World Cup last night. Yay, USA! And there was a commercial, and I don't have TV, so we had to actually go somewhere to watch this game. And there was a commercial for Pepsi, and it said, "Now made with real sugar." I was looking at that, I'm like, real sugar? If they're making it with real sugar and they don't have the high fructose corn syrup in it anymore, then people who have been fighting that for years have made a difference. And if they're making a difference, then what's going to happen to the corn industry as this continues to ripple out and out and out? And we had a really interesting discussion about that. But I think you're right when you're talking about how we see that scarcity in other people and the shift into more of there is enough, and what does it take for me to know that and to lean into that knowing?
Absolutely, absolutely. And also a huge shift for me was, and I still do this regularly, I look around, and whenever I'm feeling like, oh, I don't know if I have enough of, it can be anything, money, I'm about to run out of eggs, doesn't matter, I don't have enough. I do an internal check. Okay, where in my experience in this moment do I have enough? Okay, and if I'm really annoyed, it's like, okay, I have enough oxygen. Are we done with this exercise yet? Like this is what goes on inside my head. And so, like you can take baby steps here. And then I'll go through, it's like, well, I actually do have enough. There's nothing to worry about here. I have enough other things that I can do. I have enough time, right? This moment is not the only moment that's ever going to exist, and in this moment, I'm okay. And then just welcoming where enough is in the present moment and changing your awareness. It has a couple benefits that I just really love. First of all, it feels better. That just feels better than that constricted feeling of scarcity is everywhere. But also, it's a tool to train your mind to look for where enough is. And whenever you're relaxed in that enough state, the studies show that you're in more relaxed state whenever you connect with having enough. Most of us don't need studies to tell us that. But that's simply the truth. And when you're in a more relaxed state, your brain can process solutions to problems easier. And so if there is anything in your life that does need a solution, then focusing on where the enough is allows your subconscious mind to work the problem, and then it will present it whenever it's ready. The conscious mind can only process 30 to 60 bits of information per second. That's it. That's all you got. The subconscious mind processes about 10,000 bits of information per second. So if you want your conscious mind to figure out every single problem that you have and ever will have, good luck. You're not going to get very far, and it's not going to be fun. If you allow the subconscious mind to do some of the work, then you actually leverage a lot more, and you'll get that information sooner, and you will be a lot happier. And so that's part of the trick with working with the intuition, is you're letting the universe and the subconscious mind do their work, and then your conscious mind is focused on the most important things for you, and that's it.
That is lovely.
Thank you.
What does whole being mean to you?
For me, whole being means several things. First of all, it means showing up. Because for me, being is more than just this amorphous idea. Being is talking about a state. So it means I'm showing up as who I am on the soul level, and who I am on the human level as well. And I'm showing up fully, which means I am here as best as I know how to be, fully human and fully non-physical soul energy as well, together with as much harmony or disharmony as exists in that moment. Sometimes there's a lot of harmony, sometimes there's not, and that's okay. I've allowed that to be okay, and for me, that's what it's all about.
Oh, that is amazing. Thank you for taking time to speak to us today. If people want to find out more about you, they can go to your website, and we'll have this in the show notes. at www.spiritualmechanic.com. And I cannot say it highly enough. Erin-Ashley knows exactly what she's talking about. I took her up on that pay what you can offer, and it is absolutely divine. Highly, highly, highly recommend checking out her site, following what she's dishing out. It is an honor and a pleasure. Thank you so much.
And thank you as well, Wendy.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, Erin?
Yep.
Hang on.